end zone. Underthrown, McCollum, touchdown. Trey Tucker to the end zone it goes. Caught! Touchdown, Armon Benz.
It's Bearcat Blitz time on the Believe Network. Hope everybody is having a wonderful start to their week. Better start to the week than the Bearcats football team licking their wounds after the worst loss of the season, the worst loss in a long time, definitely the worst loss of 2025 for Cincinnati. 45-14 at the hands of Utah. We will touch on all of that today, plus a look at the Bearcats basketball season opener against Western Carolina tonight. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can catch me, Russ Eltman, your normal host on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, and you can catch my co-host Neil Meyer on the front office news.com. FanDuel Sportsbook is our wonderful presenting sponsor, where the Bearcats are still in the mix to win the Big 12 Conference title despite the loss to Utah. They fully control their destiny with that loss. They drop to one total loss in the Big 12, meaning if they win out, they will be playing for the Big 12 title. And that means a win over BYU, which currently holds the second best odds to win the Big 12 right now, behind Texas Tech at -170. BYU is +310, and in a big gap. Those two are the projected conference title opponents as of right now, as Cincinnati sits at 10-1 and Utah right behind them at 11-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook to win the Big 12. Head to FanDuel today to make your wager on the Bearcats. Get a little bit better odds than they were last week if you think they can lick their wounds, get everything cleaned up, and control their destiny the rest of the way to Arlington. FanDuel Sportsbook, your place to bet on the Big 12 Conference Championship game winner, and your place to bet on the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team. We'll tell you about their spread in our second break of the show. Let's get to our opening comments from our wonderful, wonderful sponsors, and then into a recap and more of the Utah loss and the start of the 2025-26 basketball season for Wes Miller and his Cincinnati Bearcats right here on Bearcat Blitz. Neil, the scoreline probably made it seem a little bit more of a domination by Utah than it really was. Pretty close to even on the total yardage, 480 to 427, but 3 turnovers to 2 for the Bearcats to the Utes, and Cincinnati just could not get anything going through the air, my man. 11 of 33 passing, Brendan Sorsby's worst game of the season so far. Had just 28 yards rushing, did get that touchdown on the board, one of their 2 touchdowns in the game. But overall, Neil, Utah showed why they are a dominant home team, why they are a complete team overall. It was a complete showing all the way across the board. They won the special teams battle, they won the defensive battle, and they won the offensive battle. And they once again are proving why Kyle Whittingham is well into his second decade as the head coach of that program.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a complete showing for Utah on Saturday night, to say the least. Now, when you look at this game, Russ, there was obviously a lot of momentum heading into this one, but you could kind of sense the second offensive drive, where we have to talk about the worst announcer jinx of all time, right? That was the worst jinx of all time, and you could kind of sense some momentum there right after the missed field goal. And then the very following drive, you have the fumble for Cincinnati. And that from that moment on, you kind of sensed where this game could go. But Cincinnati had plenty of opportunities. But this Utah team, you have to tip your hat, right? They're a lot better of a team than people gave them credit for, myself included. I know we had this as a game where it could be a lot closer and where Cincinnati could come on top. But on top of it, Utah just came in there and dominated all facets of the game. Special teams, offense, defense, whatever it was. They dominated that, and that was the difference maker in this one. So turnover margin, you mentioned it, was the biggest takeaway in this one. You lose that battle 3-0, and anytime you give up 3 turnovers, it's going to be hard to win a ball game. And that's safe to say in this game. Brendan Sorsby threw his first interception in 7 games. So overall, it was a complete showing by Utah, but Cincinnati had its opportunities, but a lot of sloppiness on their end. But overall, you got to tip your hat where your credit's due to a good Utah team and Kyle Whittingham and what the job they've done out there in Salt Lake City.
And I think Sorsby lost a fumble in the game too, didn't he? As well.
Hmm.
Yeah. So 2 turnovers entering the game all year for Sorsby. Has 2 in there. I think the first half alone of this contest. It was just not his night, not the night for the Cincinnati Bearcats defense as well. 267 yards on the ground for Utah. They averaged 5 yards a carry on 53 attempts. It was a road grading up and down the field for Utah, and they just dominated time of possession. 40 minutes of possession in this game to just 20 for the Bearcats. Got into the red zone 5 times, scored in 4 of those 5 trips against a Neil red zone defense for the Bearcats. That was top 5 in the country entering this game. We discussed that in depth last week of you had to win the strength on strength red zone battle, and the strength of the Utah offense was much too much for the Bearcats to overcome. And once again, Neil, 14 carries, 78 yards for Devin Dampier. UC's facing a few running quarterbacks down the stretch of this season, and they got to figure that out fast, or their offense is going to have to put up close to 40 points a game down the stretch here to keep pace with some of these offenses and these quarterbacks that they're going to be facing, namely Bear Bachmeier, in just a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And Russ, another thing I want to take away from this game, obviously, when we spoke to Coach Satterfield earlier in the week, we mentioned this could be a game where Tolby Walker could see 20, 25 carries essentially, and then you look down at the stat line. I think he ended up getting a little bit banged up in this contest as well, but
He
you look
had to be
down,
because he was averaging 9 a carry and they only toted it 7 times.
yeah, and you only carry 7 times, so it was interesting to see that aspect, but overall, like you mentioned, this defense is going to have to kind of be ready for the dual threat quarterbacks, like you mentioned with Devin Dampier. You have in 2 weeks, you have the bye week here. You have Noah Fafita coming out of it, who is a more pocket passer, but he is able to use his legs as well with Arizona. Then you have Bear Bachmeier, and then you have Josh Hoover. So you have arguably 2 of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12 right now here in the next 3 weeks. And if Cincinnati isn't ready for a guy like Bear Bachmeier, Russ, in 2 weeks, it could get interesting to say the least. So the defense will have to be ready because they know they got some challenges ahead.
98 yards, 43 yards, 89 yards, 64 yards, 49 yards, and 5 total touchdowns for Bear Bachmeier on the ground in his past 5 games. He's going to absolutely destroy this 3-3-5 defense if they do not find a way to get some more impact from the upfront names, namely Neil, a guy we're going to have all eyes on, especially next week entering that Arizona contest. Jake Golday seems like hopefully a non-serious head injury is what Scott Satterfield noted about it after the game. Obviously, a major factor for the Bearcats moving forward. If this defense doesn't have Jake Golday, Neil, it falls off precipitously very quickly.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Jake Golday has simply worked his way up to a top 100 player in this year's draft class. So without him, he's kind of been your heart and soul in this defense this past season. So it doesn't sound too serious. It sounds like it was just a minor thing, whether that be a concussion or a whiplash incident like Joe Royer had in earlier in the season. Still kind of gathering a little bit more of those details, but with the bye week ahead, I don't expect it to be a serious injury, and I would expect him to be out there versus Arizona here in 2 weeks or 10 days, roughly, whatever it might be. But overall, Russ, like you mentioned, all eyes have been on Jake Golday this year. He's arguably one of the best linebackers uh, in the Big 12. So if he isn't able to go for some reason, Cincinnati's linebacker room takes a big hit and a hit that they have the most depth at. But Jake Golday brings a lot to the table. His versatility, he can get after the quarterback, he can drop in coverage, he can move laterally very quickly, one of the fastest guys on the team. So you're going to need one of those guys to step up if he's unable to go. But with all hopes heading into Arizona, the hope is that Jake Golday should be able to return, hopefully.
And Neil, kind of tying up a bow on this game, one more final note for me. Just offensively, Not much happening in the middle of the field for this passing attack right now. Joe
Yeah.
Royer, pretty much non-existent. I think Cyrus Allen did catch that deep 88-yard pass. Maybe that was over the middle, or it might have been considered a sideline pass. But really, all they could get going against this elite Utah passing defense, including their pass rush, which did not actually get home for a sack in this game, but obviously caused some issues in terms of the pressure aspect of things. You got to find a way to get Joe Royer going. You got to find a way, and you got to find a way to access the middle of this field in the passing attack in this game. Passes 5 of 14 yards of depth in the mid range, 6 of 9 total. 0 for 1 down the middle of the field on that distance, 1 for 1 down the middle of the field on the short middle, 0 for 2 down the middle of the field on deep passes of 15 plus yards. Neil, they went 1 for 5 for 9 yards on passes over the middle of the field. It's almost impossible to operate as a college passing attack if you are putting up numbers like that on targets to that area of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Not even just a guy like Joe Royer. It would also be a guy like Jeff Caldwell,
Yeah.
Caleb Goody. You would like to see those guys get involved a little bit too. Obviously, Jeff Caldwell's been drawing a lot of attention with the 6'5", 210-pound frame there on the outside, but you'd like to see Caleb Goody get going. That's where you could really utilize him is across the middle, let him go out and get in space and try to hit those deep balls. We've seen them try to hit the deep balls, but they've been unable to connect outside the one this year. So overall, you would like to see guys like Joe Royer, Jeff Caldwell, Caleb Goody, Noah Jennings potentially as well, kind of get going there in the passing game and not really kind of rely on Cyrus Allen, which Cyrus Allen, Russ, now has double-digit receiving touchdowns, which is top 5 in the country. But outside of that, they're going to need some production from these other guys down the stretch.
Right. Allen had an 88-yard touchdown catch in this game. Outside of that, I mean, there was not really anything happening for the Bearcats passing attack, and it's dropped them down to 25th nationally in the AP and coaches polls from a 17th and 16th ranking in those respective marks. So still in the top 25, but obviously a humbling Saturday night for Cincinnati Bearcats fans and puts them, Neil, at 5-1 in the conference. They are currently losing the tiebreaker to Texas Tech, who is also 5-1. So if Cincinnati does not beat BYU, they will no longer control their destiny the rest of the way here. BYU obviously undefeated in the conference, undefeated at 8-0 overall. Texas Tech 8-1 overall, with the lone loss to Arizona State, I believe, a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cincinnati at 5-1, and Houston right on the heels of the top three at 4-2. Same with Utah at 4-2, Arizona State at 4-2, and then TCU at 3-3, and a jumble of teams at 3 wins or less after that. So Neil, it's a tough loss. You never want to lose like that, 45-14, but there were some plays, some moments where Cincinnati could have kept this one a lot closer on the scoreboard than it looked when you actually dive into the box score. And they still control everything. And this bye week is coming at the perfect time for them to get Evan Pryor healthy. You get Jake Golday healthy, get everybody reset. And on top of that, Neil, get this defense a breather. A breather, man. I mean, they have faced, I'd have to look it up. I don't have the numbers right on the tip of my tongue right now, but they have to have faced some of the 10 highest snap totals of any defense in the country so far this season. And it was on display again in this outing against Utah. 40 minutes of time and possession. Utah runs 84 plays to Cincinnati's 63. Points are points. You want to score quickly if you can. You want to score slowly if you can. You just want to score. That's the bottom line if you're an offense. But we are seeing, after kind of 6 straight weeks or 5 straight weeks of football, the snap total kind of lopsidedness really affect that defense. And you could see it on Saturday night. Just they were gassed at the second half of that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could definitely see that on Saturday night. But like you mentioned, this is a perfect time for them to get on to the bye week and get fully healthy. Obviously, without Evan Pryor, without Jake Golday for the majority of the second half of this game, they desperately needed a bye week. You got perfect timing. You now have 10 days to kind of recover, get back into the swing of things when you have three big opportunities where Russ realistically three opportunities where the Bearcats could go 3-0. And if they do that, they control their destiny to a Big 12 play or a Big 12 championship. However, it's not going to be an easy task. Obviously, with Arizona being the easiest of the three, BYU obviously one of the best teams in the country. TCU's got a high flying powered offense behind Josh Hoover. And if the defense doesn't get figured out here soon, could be could be a rough stretch. So it's a perfect time for the bye week. Get these guys fully healthy. Guys like Dante Corleone as well, Jake Golday. Get this defense a breather to where they can utilize the new IPF, utilize all the resources they have, and kind of lock in for the last 3 weeks of the season with everything still in front of them to be in Dallas here at the beginning of December playing for a Big 12 championship.
Arizona, they will be favored in that game. I imagine probably a 5 to 6 point betting spread in favor of the Bearcats. And then the final two games, depending on what they do to Arizona, likely not going to be favored. I would imagine it's going to be a tight 1 to 2, 3 point spread in favor of the Cougars as road favorites on the 21st and then, or the 22nd, excuse me. And then I would be pretty surprised if Cincinnati is a road favorite at TCU. ESPN's matchup predictor has TCU and BYU favored currently via their football power index power rankings on the ESPN docket right now. So we'll see if the Bearcats in full control of their destiny, but it's the toughest 3 game stretch of the season by far, for sure, for this team coming up. Even tougher than I would say the Kansas, Iowa State, UCF stretch. This is the toughest. And you could argue the toughest 3 game stretch, if you don't factor in the bye, is Utah, Arizona, and BYU. Bearcats football, still everything to play for. And obviously Bearcats basketball, still everything to play for. They haven't played a single game yet, but they will have played one in time for most people that hear this either this evening or on Tuesday. Western Carolina coming to Fifth Third Arena on Monday night for the season opener to tip off the 2025-26 Cincinnati Bearcats basketball season. We will discuss that and the outlook for the Bearcats basketball team after these messages on Bearcat Blitz. But first, got to tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the Bearcats to win their game tonight as big favorites. Cincinnati, 22.5 point favorite over Western Carolina now. That's grown from a 20.5 point betting spread at the open on Sunday morning. Cincinnati is minus 8,000 to win their sixth consecutive, I believe it will be. Yes, sixth consecutive. Is it fifth? I get the Wes Miller era jumbled up. It's either the fifth or the sixth straight season opening win. They have never dropped a season opener in the Miller era, and the point total is set at 143.5 points on FanDuel Sportsbook. 7 p.m. tip tonight. Get your wagers in on FanDuel, where you can utilize a 50% profit boost on FanDuel Sportsbook for games tipping off today, Monday, November 3rd. Quick break, and then we'll get back to it right here on Bearcat Blitz. Bearcat Blitz, flipping from the gridiron to the hardwood here, Neil. It's finally time for Bearcats basketball. They tip off the season tonight against Western Carolina. I'm not really worried about much of what Western Carolina does. I would be shocked if this is not at least a 15-plus point victory here, despite all of the turnover for the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team. I mean, they've had months to gel at this point. They've had multiple scrimmages to gel. They've been getting together and putting the puzzle pieces together for months on end at this point. So, Neil, I'm mostly just kind of looking for who was that lead creator on this team, who was that lead ball handler to start out, who was kind of the lead offensive driving force. That's my top thing on offense. And then defensively, how high is the ceiling on defense for this team? Can they be a top 10 defense in the country? Can they be a top 5 defense in the country? We'll start to get a sense of that, maybe a little bit. Can't really take too much away from game one. Got to kind of get the whole first 2 weeks in general to start taking away some conclusions in the non-conference side of things. But when you got a guy as talented as Mustafa Cham anchoring the defense, and you got veteran playmakers as good as Dede Thomas, Kirk Kriisa, and possibly what the European talents bring to the table, there's plenty of internal things to look at for the Bearcats, despite what should be maybe a pretty much a snoozer of a basketball game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be exciting tonight at Fifth Third Arena, and obviously a lot of people have been waiting for basketball season to come back with a new look roster, kind of get their first at like up close and personal looks of what this team might have been. Obviously, you got to saw glimpses and pieces of it with the exhibition games that were streamed uh, between Michigan and Arkansas, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. There's a lot of pieces that can come together. Obviously, you mentioned the 22-point spread. This could be a game where it could be that you could hit that spread, but I
And for
expect them
betting
to win.
purposes, for people who don't know, Wes Miller averages about 31 points per game scoring margin in his season openers. He just absolutely takes these teams to the woodshed. And Neil, this team is terrible. This Western Carolina team is really, really bad. 98.3% chance to win this game on ESPN's matchup predictor against a squad that went 8-22 last season and has currently brings a 5-game losing streak to the table here. So there's not even anybody on the team to talk about from Western Carolina.
Yeah, so could be just a little tune-up game. You could see a lot of different rotations. I know we asked Wes Miller what those rotations might look like when we spoke to him last week. He said they're still trying to find that, so you can kind of see maybe different rotations there as well. Also worth noting, a guy like Jalen Celestine was on a minute restriction versus Arkansas. I asked Wes Miller on that aspect. I said, hey, is this going to be a minute restriction heading into next week's season opener, or how do we approach that? And he wasn't quite sure on that aspect yet. Wanted to see how Jalen responded over the weekend. But it's going to be interesting, Russ. There's a lot of different moving pieces, like you mentioned. Who's going to be that lead creator for this offense, right? Will it be Kirk Carissa? Will it be Sean Abayev? Will it be Day Thomas? Will it be Mustafa Cham? There's so many different moving pieces that have the ability to go out here and alter a game and affect a game and take over for Cincinnati. So it's going to be interesting to see how that might come to fruition tonight. But the guy I'm really looking forward to seeing hit the court tonight, Russ, is Tyler McKinley. That's the
Yeah.
guy I'm really looking forward to keeping an eye on.
Yeah, really cool. Full circle moment for Tyler. Did a great job with his rehab and is ready to make his Bearcats debut as a redshirt freshman. He was part of Tyler Betsy's class last year, but Tyler Betsy ain't here no more. So it's just Tyler McKinley is the only double Tyler left from the class of 2024. A lot of new names to take in and an exciting season hopefully ahead for the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team. Give us as much excitement as the football team, and we'll take that and run with it, no doubt about it. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. Actually, real quick, Neil, I mean, I think they cover tonight. I think they cover
I
the
think they
22
cover.
and a half. This Western Carolina team is horrendous. Give me the Bearcats 88-60 in this one, something like that.
Give me the Bearcats 85-56. That's where I'm going with tonight.
There you go. Easy dub to start things off for Cincinnati, who will face Georgia State on Friday night at 7 p.m. and then Dayton next Tuesday at home. That's the big one they're building towards, the first kind of marquee matchup of the non-con before 10 days later facing off against Louisville at Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati. It's all going to be a lot of fun this season. The marathon sprint of November on the football and basketball front starts right now, or it's already started basically. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz. We'll talk to you later on in the week.
It's a deep shot. He's got Tyler Scott, and he's into open space. First throw of the year for Desmond Ritter. Touchdown, Bearcats.
Ritter in a rhythm, going to take a shot towards the end zone.